Hello, hello! Welcome to today's live English lesson here on the Speak English with Vanessa YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we have something a little different. Today we have a Q&A. Q&A means question and answer. So last week I asked you what are some questions that you would like to ask me about English, about anything else, and I copied your questions. I wrote them in a document, and I also wrote some quick answers in that document. So if you want to check out this document that I'm going to be looking at, there's a Google Drive link in the description below this video. So feel free to open that Google Drive link. You can download it, you can keep it. It has a couple links because I'm going to give you some references or some suggestions to mobile apps or other websites, and I wanted to write them on that document in advance just so that you could keep it. And if you want to just write your own notes, it's okay, but feel free to take a look at it in the description. Your choice. Thank you so much for joining me live if you're here. If you're watching the replay, no problem, but if you are live, this is your chance to share a question, and I'll try my best to include it in our live Q&A today. I already have quite a few that I received last week, but if you have a question, you can write it in the chat box, and we'll see what happens. So thanks so much for joining me. Nina, glad you're here. Hiroyuki, welcome, welcome. Emelita, hello, hello. Hello from Korea. Victor from El Salvador. Excellent. Thanks for joining me. Today, let's get started. And I have a quick announcement before we get started. This is my quick announcement. We will be having, starting this week, we will be having 2 live YouTube lessons each week. Instead of 1, we'll be having 2. So you can join me on Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. EST. This is the New York time, 9 a.m. EST. I hope you can join me today and also on Thursday. Thanks so much. Let's get started with the first question. So I think what I would like to do, I'm going to try my best to share my screen, and we'll see what happens because there's a function where I can share my screen. So let's see if that's something that that will work. All right. Okay, so I think at the moment, I hope at the moment you can see my screen. We're going to be talking about the first question up here. So we have a lovely question from Poland. Actually, she asks a couple questions. She said, we're really curious. How did you meet your husband? How was your life in Korea? Why did you go there? And how old are you and your husband? So there are some personal questions like this, and then later we'll have some English questions. So they're all mixed. So feel free, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. And I'm gonna come back to my screen here so that you can see me. Hello, hello. All right, so let's start with Katarzyna. I hope I said your name correctly. Let's start with her first question. She asks, how did you meet your husband, Dan? We met in college on the first day, and he was the first person I talked with. But it wasn't love at first sight. Dan had to be very patient. But we met in college. On the first day, he sat beside me just by accident, and the rest is history. Her second question is, how was your life in Korea and why did you go there? So if you're new to Speak English with Vanessa, I lived in Korea for 3 years as an English teacher. And the reason why I went there was because I have 4 friends, 2 couples, who already went to Korea and taught English. And I like to travel and my husband enjoys new experiences. So when they told us about just the culture in Korea and how kind people are, great food is, this interesting life, we were really interested and decided, why not? Try it out. So we went to Korea thanks to them, and we stayed there for 3 years. Great question. She says, I want to ask you a private question. How old are you? How old are you and your husband? Well, we are the same age at the moment. I am 29 and my husband is 29, but in less than 1 month, Dan will be 30. His birthday is April 1st on April Fool's Day. So soon he'll be 30, and in September 4th, I will be 32. So this is the year of changing decades. Quite a big year, and a year of having a baby. So quite a huge year. We have a question from our live chat. So I want to go back and forth. We have a question. Let's see, which one should I answer? We've got a lot. Rezik says, have you ever been to an Arab country before? And you know what? I haven't, but I would be really interested in visiting a completely different culture, different part of the world. Do you have any recommendations? Maybe your country, I imagine you want to share. Where should I visit? What's your recommendation? Oh, wonderful. We have friends joining us from Rio. Good morning. From Thailand. Good night. From Morocco. Welcome, welcome. We have another live question. I'm sorry. I wish I could read the Russian alphabet, but I haven't learned it yet. So I'm sorry, I can't read your name, but please tell me later. What's your, how should I pronounce your name? He asks, how's your baby? Pretty good, I think. Pretty good. Eng says, I met my husband on the internet. Oh, how cool. Very cool. Yinghua says, North or South Korea? I lived definitely in South Korea. Yes. Juan asks, do you speak Korean then? Well, I can read the Korean alphabet and I can communicate enough. But my life in Korea was surrounded in English. My job was teaching English. My husband speaks English. All my Korean friends had pretty good English. So the Korean that I learned was more survival Korean. So later in this conversation, we have a question about what languages have I learned? So we'll talk about more language learning in just a moment. All right, Francesca asks Vanessa, when will you come back to Italy? Oh, I want to come back today. I would love to come back as soon as possible. And I think it's certainly possible because the world is not that big. It seems sometimes like it's so far away, but really it's completely possible. Let's go to the next question. The next question is more an English question. So I'm going to share my screen again so that you can check it out. Avan Karim says, hi, I'm from Kurdistan. Thanks so much for doing this. I have a question. Do you think learning 2 languages at the same time is a good idea? Or just focusing on one language is better and faster? Thanks so much. Well, I did a little research last night, so I wanted to share these 2 articles with you. You can find this document in the description below this video. So this whole PDF file is a Google Drive document that I made. And I wanted to get their opinions because these people are polyglots. They have been they have been learning multiple languages. So I wanted to get their opinion, and I'm curious what you think here. Those of you who are live, do you think it's possible to learn more than one language at the same time? Is it a good idea? And from my personal experience, the only time that I was learning two languages at the same time was when I was in college. It's the same as university. When I was in college, I was studying Spanish and French at the same time. In fact, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had Spanish class at 10 a.m. And then 11 a.m. in the same classroom, I had a French class. So when I wanted to prepare for the next language, even though there was only a 5-minute break between the classes, I went outside, tried to clear my mind, and then I came back. So for me, I only did this for a couple months, but in these articles, these people have learned 10 languages, 12 languages. They're the experts. And they say that 2 is possible. 3 or more maybe is pushing it, is a little too much, is a little too much. So if you want to really focus on one language, that's going to be the best option. But it's possible if you have an organized plan, really organized, to learn 2 languages. So I recommend checking out those articles and seeing their detailed advice. They give a lot of great ideas. We have some more live questions, so I want to make sure I can ask them. Nirali says, is India on your list anytime soon? Oh, what a beautiful sentence, anytime soon. Well, India is always on my list. I would love to visit India. It's kind of my ultimate dream. I would love to visit India. In fact, my plan, it's not really a plan, but it's an idea. My dream is to go to India and live with a family for maybe 1 month, because even though I would enjoy visiting some great different locations around the country, I really want to experience just normal life. And from my experience, when I travel somewhere and stay in the same place for a couple weeks or a couple years, it feels much more real, because you're experiencing daily life. It's not so exciting every day, but that's real life. So I would love to do that someday. Maybe if I come to India, I can visit you. Tell me, where do you live? Nirali, what city do you live in India? Or maybe you don't live there anymore. We have a couple questions. Have you ever been to Thailand? Yes, I visited Thailand for 1 week. 1 week. And to be honest, 1 week was way too short. I would love to visit Thailand for 2 months, 3 months. I think every place really, you need to stay for a long time. We went to Bangkok for 4 days, 3 days, and then we traveled on the train to the south to Ao Nang, I believe, near Krabi, but Ao Nang is the beach area. And we stayed there for 3 days, and then we took the train back to Bangkok, and then we went back to Korea. It was so fast. I really, really just was mind blown about a different culture, amazing weather. We were there in January, so for me, it was perfect in the winter. Just great food, kind people, but I want to go back for a longer time. That would be great. Slow travel. We have a quick question about Brazil. Oh, have you ever been to northeastern Brazil? Well, Afranio, I hope I said your name correctly. I haven't been anywhere in Brazil. Actually, I've never been to South America. And it's really pretty close to the US, so I would love to go. Certainly. I think there's a proverb, maybe not a proverb, but a little quote. And this quote says, I haven't been everywhere, but it's on my list. So everywhere is on my list. I would love to go to Brazil and Japan and Guatemala and Vietnam. That would be awesome. Let's go to the next question. We have another question from China. And this is a really useful question for learning English. So I'm going to share my screen again. I hope that that's working okay. All right, we have a question from Jane. Jane says she's from China, and she asks, how can I remember English words quickly? I've remembered a lot of words before, but I've forgotten most of them. So first of all, I wanted to share this link. Last year in December, in 2016, I made 7 videos called Top 3 Tips. Top 3 tips for vocabulary, top 3 tips for pronunciation. This is the link, so you can go to my YouTube channel and you'll see it on the front page, or you can download this document and click on the link. And a lot of the tips that I'm going to mention right now are in this playlist. So feel free to take a look at that in more detail, because I'm sure I'm not going to remember all of them right now. So one great way to, I want to make sure I can get our chat box back. Great. One great way to remember words quickly and just for a long time. That's the goal. You have to use them. Use them, of course. Use them in as many possible situations. So a lot of English learners, maybe those of you who are here now feel the same way. They don't have a chance to speak English all the time. So for you, maybe you need to really push yourself to use new expressions. So you might need to speak out loud with yourself, write them down, listen to songs that use those words, and try to immerse yourself in words that you want to remember. Another good way is to use, I'm going to mention this a little bit later too. Another good way is to use memorization apps. App is application, something that you use on your phone. So there are 2 that are pretty popular. One is Anki, A-N-K-I, Anki, and Memrise, M-E-M-R-I-S-E, Memrise. And those are useful for remembering words that you're probably going to forget. So they use a system called spaced repetition system, something like that. And it's kind of like flashcards. So you write the word. I recommend writing a sentence in this application with the word that you want to remember. And then after a couple days, when you look at the app, it will ask you, what does this mean? And you have to remember it. And then a couple days later, it will ask you again. So it's constantly reminding you instead of forgetting it. So those are just 2 apps that I recommend, but I also recommend checking out the playlist. I have a video about top 3 tips for remembering vocabulary and top 3 tips for remembering, memory in general, for memory. So I think that those videos will be useful for you. Let's go back to our live chat and see if there's any questions that we can answer in our live conversation. Ang Nona asks, which is easier, American English or British English? Well, you know the answer for me. For me, it's easier to learn American English because I'm from the US, and it's easier for me to teach you that because that's what I know. But really, there's not a specific answer. Which one is easier? So what about for you? Which one is easier for you? Is American English easier? British English easier? And it might depend. If you're at a job and you're surrounded by British English speakers, maybe you feel more comfortable with those accents, specific vocabulary words. But if you like watching American TV shows or movies, maybe that's more familiar to you. But really, they're all English. So don't stress too much about British or American or Australian. English is still English, and enjoy it. Let's see if there are any more live questions. Sabi says, what is a burning question? Great question, because that's the title of today's YouTube lesson. Ask me a burning question. So burning is connected with fire. So if you imagine inside of you, there's a fire and you have a question you want to ask and it's heating up inside of you. This is a burning question. You have to have an answer now. You feel like, I don't know what I will do if I don't have an answer. So this is a burning question. So you could use this in your daily life if you want to be silly or maybe tell a joke let's say at the grocery store. If you're looking for maybe you're looking for some kind of yogurt that you want to eat, but you can't find it and you thought that it was at that grocery store, you could say this with a joke. You could say to somebody who works at the grocery store, excuse me, I have a burning question. Where's the yogurt? This is not the most important question in the whole world. It's not burning inside you, but you're using it kind of like a joke. So this is a common way to use it in daily life. But here in our live chat, maybe you really do have a question that could help you improve your English, or you want to learn more about your teacher. So that's a burning question. I want to go back and see if there are any more live questions before we go to some more. I saw Ness posted some questions. I have your questions later in the document, so we'll get to you. Let's see. Okay, all right, let's go back to the live document. I'm going to share my screen again. All right. The next question is also about English. Barin Mina says, hey, Vanessa, I want to improve my writing skills. So can you give me some tips for writing? And here on the screen, you can see I give 3 quick website recommendations. This final one here, I already mentioned that for learning vocabulary, but it can also be good for reinforcing, for learning spelling, sentence structure. So these 2 websites, italki and Lang 8, they're good for getting immediate feedback about your writing, because if you want to improve, first of all, you need to practice, but you also need to get some feedback. If you feel like you're making a lot of mistakes, you're not sure what is correct. So I recommend using italki and Lang 8. And if any of you here live have any other recommendations for how to improve your writing, feel free to share them and I'll read them out loud. I think that on these websites, you can submit a paragraph or some kind of writing sample, and people around the world will give you feedback. They'll correct your writing, and they're probably not professionals. They're just volunteers, but it's a good free way to start. If you have something more important, like your thesis paper for school or something that you really want to be perfectly written, then I recommend paying someone to help you correct it and have some feedback. But these are great options for kind of free writing feedback. So great question about writing, Uh, Skrikutan, I hope I said your name correctly, said, how many words should I learn to be fluent, to be a fluent English speaker? There is a lot of controversy about how many words you should know to be fluent. But my first question, and I always ask this, I feel like I hope I'm not repeating it too much, but this depends. What is your definition of fluent? Does it mean you're a native speaker? Does it mean you can speak without much hesitation? Does it mean you can talk about normal daily life pretty comfortably? Those are all different levels. So the amount of words that you need to talk about those things will be different depending on what is your definition of fluency. So I really challenge you and everyone else, decide for yourself, what is fluency? What does that mean? How can you really reach the goal that you want to reach, which is fluency, but that you know exactly what it is in the first place. That's important. We have a quick, funny question. Someone asks, you're wearing half sleeves. We say short sleeves. You're wearing short sleeves. Is it warm in your area, or is the room well conditioned? Is it nice and warm here? It is. Actually, my phone is not here, so I don't know the exact temperature, but I feel pretty warm this morning. I think today it's gonna be 15 degrees. This is amazing. Usually it's 5 degrees, 0 degrees in March, but it has been so beautiful and warm. It's like spring, but the weather could still go down. At night, it's a little bit cold, maybe 5 degrees, but during the day, it's amazing. So yes, in my house, I can wear short sleeves. It feels great. And also, I think that typically pregnant women are feeling warmer than other people because the blood in your body is 30 to 50% more than normal. So my body has a lot more blood than normal going through my veins. So I feel a little bit warmer than other people, but it's not crazy. It's a beautiful day, certainly. Let's go back to a live lesson, or a question from our document. I'm looking at too many things at the same time. Let's take a look at a question from Adriana. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see her question. Adriana says, hi, Vanessa. My question is, do you plan to write a book soon? Oh, I read your free ebook and I was so delighted because it was written in an enjoyable and funny way. So I hope you can write a book about learning language or frequent mistakes. And she also asks, how did you start to teach like this? In a supportive, funny, calm, focused way with facial muscles. So we've got two questions here. The first one is, will you write a book? And the second one is, how did you start teaching like this? How did you start to teach? So let's go back. I'll come back. Hello, hello. And interesting question about writing a book. I want to know, what do you who are here live, what do you think? If I wrote a book, what should I write it about? I think that a lot of people who have experience with something usually try to put all of that knowledge together in one place. And a book is a really clear way of doing that. And something really cool about nowadays with, for example, with an ebook, you can have a link. And especially for English, I think listening is really important. So even in that book, you could click on it and go to a video or go to some audio content, because I think that putting those things together would be really valuable for me. At the moment, I don't have a plan to write a book, but why not? I think I would want it to be a good help for English learners and to be something different than what already exists, because there's a lot of options for books. When you asked the question, I thought about, oh, what about some kind of stories or learning English through stories and then talking about those stories, something that I would enjoy reading, because I love fiction and stories and characters, and using that to really improve English. We'll see. It's a good idea for the future. Her second question is, how did you start teaching online? And I don't know if I've talked about that before. Before I do, I'm gonna take a little drink. Water with some lemon is perfect in the morning. So she asks, how did you start to teach like this? And I think that I would say it's natural for me to feel enthusiastic about something that I care about. And I really care about making sure that I'm not wasting your time, I'm not wasting my time, and that I'm sharing information that I think is the most valuable, because I don't have a boss who's telling me, you need to teach this, you need to talk about this. So I need to decide what's useful for you, and that's a big responsibility. So for me, I feel really enthusiastic about it. It's kind of like a cycle. I feel enthusiastic about doing my best and sharing my best with you. And then when I hear that it's useful to you, it makes me more enthusiastic. So thank you for participating in this cycle, a good cycle. We have a couple questions. Oh, Sin has a good question. Sinmar says, hi, Vanessa, good morning. After you give birth, are you going to continue teaching? Well, 5 minutes after I give birth, the answer is no, but I'm going to probably take a couple weeks break of live lessons. So at the moment, I'm planning and scheduling some YouTube videos that I have prepared in advance, so that in July is the month of the baby, so that in July, you can continue to have English lessons and they will be prepared in advance. So I think after the baby's born, I will wait a couple weeks to do live lessons like this. I'm sure I'll be tired. It'll be nice to have a little break. I want to focus on a new human in my life, but I definitely plan to continue. So right now I'm working hard to schedule and organize so that you can continue to have lessons throughout 2017, no matter what happens. Hiroyuki, thank you so much. She says, I think your videos are very beneficial. Thanks so much. Oh, no, Nohami says, was it easy for you to learn French? I would say easy is a little bit too strong. For me, like I said, when I care about something, I'm really enthusiastic and passionate, and I really want to do it well. So for me, my first language that I tried to learn at school was Spanish. And this was really typical, probably similar to your English classroom experiences, memorizing vocabulary. We never spoke. We could read a little bit, but it wasn't real to me because we didn't really use Spanish that much. So when I started French, I wanted to do something completely different. So when I started learning French, I chose this method that you're using now, realistic, connecting with French people. I went to a local meetup group with French people, and I tried to talk with them each week. For the first couple months, I didn't understand anything. I couldn't communicate at all, but this was real. I saw that real people were speaking French, and it helped so much. So that's something I recommend for you too. Check out the website meetup.com, meetup.com, and maybe there's an English group in your area or in another city. This is a really good way to make English real, because for me, when someone asks me a question, not in the classroom, but in real life, in another language, that's really real. You have to answer. You feel some social pressure. And I think it's a good pressure, because that's why we learn language as children. We feel pressure to communicate. So our brain naturally responds to that pressure in a positive way, that we want to learn more. We try to use the right expressions. So put yourself in that situation, speak with someone real who's really speaking English, and it'll be great. Taufik says, what's your favorite hobby, Vanessa? And in fact, I think this might be one of the next questions. What's your favorite hobby? I think in general, it's going outside. Anything outside, taking a walk, hiking, throwing a frisbee, roller skating, throwing a basketball, anything outside, even just sitting at a cafe outside. I love fresh air. Feels so calming. I hope for you too. So what about for you? What is something that you like to do? What's a hobby that you enjoy? Let's go back to our document here. I'm going to share my screen one more time. And David has a good question. He says, hi, Vanessa, this is David from Mexico. I have some trouble with Mr., Mrs., Miss, and Miss. How and when to use them. So I wrote a quick explanation here that there's only one for men. Mr. is for all men. So I could say your last name is, or your first name is David. Let's just use your first name. I imagine David. Let's say, Mr. David, how are you doing today? Very clear. You're a man, so we need to use Mr. And this is usually used in professional situations when you want to be extra polite. The next one, Mrs., is for married women. So you could say Mrs. Vanessa, but a lot of people nowadays don't want you to say Mrs. because they feel old. They feel like it's something that their grandmother you might use with their grandmother, not with them. So the next one is for unmarried women, Miss Vanessa. But the final one I think is the most commonly used, and you can pronounce this Miss. It's the same here, Miss Vanessa, MS. And it's for women if they're married, if they're not married. And nowadays it's becoming much more popular because a lot of people don't want to seem old or feel old, so we use Miss. Let's go to the next question really quick, and then I'll go back to our live chat to see if anyone has any questions. Ness, who I think is here live. Hello, Ness. She says, should we use the singular or plural after everyone, everybody? Now, the key here is that we have one and buddy. So one is definitely one person. So we need to say has. This is the singular. Everyone has 10 cats, right? Doesn't everyone have 10 cats? So we need to say the singular here, has. But if you want to use plural, we can just say they. They have 10 cats. They have 10 cats. I hope that quick explanation is useful. Let's go back to our live chat and see if there's any more live questions that we can answer. I hope, thank you all for being patient for this long live lesson. I appreciate it. Ahmed has a pronunciation question. He asks about here, hair, and here. I'm going to write down these words so that we can take a look at them at the same time. One word is here, hair, and here. So 2 of these are the same. I want you to guess. Guess which 2 are pronounced the same. Here, hair, here. Here, hair, here. Here, hair, here. Ooh, 2 of these. 2 of these are pronounced the same. Which 2 have the same pronunciation? Ring, ring. Here, here. Here, here. So let's write a funny sentence. Come over here. Can you hear my hair? This is a crazy sentence because you can't hear hair. Hair doesn't make a sound usually. But let's use all of these together. So if you want to practice your pronunciation with me, let's say this out loud together. Are you ready? Come over here. Can you hear my hair? These 2 are the same. And this one is hair, a little wider, hair, and here. We're kind of smiling a little bit. Here and hair. Come over here. Can you hear my hair? We have another great live question. I'm going to try to say your name. All right, we got this. Rakatoariso. I don't know how I did. He asks, did you do preparation before this lesson went live? I would love to be like you and talk constantly. You're on the right path. You're on the right path. Yes, I did preparation. I copied the questions and I tried to find some answers. There are previous questions and live questions. Live questions, I can't prepare it now because they're live, but some people asked me questions from the last YouTube video because I said I'm going to have a live lesson. So some people already asked questions and I prepared those in advance so that I could have some good answers. I would like to go to the next question here, which is from a previous lesson. So someone already asked me this. Ricardo says, great lesson, Vanessa. I'd like to know if you're learning other languages and what are the main techniques that you use? Well, I am a life learner of French. I will always be learning French because there's always more to learn. And I don't speak French every day with people around me, so I need to keep practicing and just enjoy it. So 2 ways that I learn French, I continue to study French, is a website called Français Authentique, which is authentic French. And the teacher, Johan, he talks about expressions and he talks about life all in French. There's no English. And this is something I really appreciate because it's complete immersion. A lot of language learning materials that are not about English, they use English to explain another language. And that's good if you're starting, but I would like something completely in French. So I really appreciate his website, his podcast, and I also use YouTube channels in French, like these 3. Cyprien, Norman, Nato, these are all some of the most popular YouTube channels in French. They talk about lots of stuff, crazy stuff. So these are some ways. I also go to a meetup group 2 times a month and speak with other French speakers in my city 2 times a month for an hour and a half. So it's not too long. It's just 3 hours a month, but it's enjoyable. let's go to, we've got a lot. Okay, let's go to some of these quickly. Oh, I think I already talked about this. Nina, I think Nina was here. Maybe she's gone now. She asked, what are your interests when it comes to spending time with Dan or yourself? So I already mentioned going outside. I love to go outside. She also asks a great question. When did you come up with the idea to teach English online? And I think this is a really interesting question because a lot of teachers, they think if I want to teach, I should go to a school. I should teach in a school, and that's great. There is a need for teachers in a classroom too. But I remember the moment that I thought about teaching online. It was in the evening. I was in Korea, and I was 3 times a week. I was teaching a group of welders. Welders it's a job that you put 2 pieces of metal together, and they were Korean men who were gonna go to Canada after 2 months. So in 2 months, they were gonna go to Canada and they needed to improve their English. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I went to their welding school and I taught about 5 or 6 men about survival English. And I loved this so much. I felt like these guys were passionate. It was such a big challenge for me to create a useful lesson, something practical, something where we could talk together for 2 hours and really use English together. And one day after I left the class, I was riding my bike, about to go home, riding my bike on my way to my house, and I thought, my heart was beating fast, I had a smile on my face, and I thought, I'm really happy right now. If I'm so happy right now, how can I continue that? Because I know that I probably won't live in Korea forever. These guys are gonna go to Canada in a couple months. So this specific situation is not gonna stay. How can I recreate something like that? Because I feel passionate and happy, and I feel like my creative side is useful to other people. So then I decided I could do something online. So that night, I went on the internet and searched for teaching English online, and all night I stayed up reading articles and blog posts and videos and trying to learn about this. So thanks to those guys in Korea, the welders, I got this idea and it stuck. So far so good. We have a couple questions live. Let me answer one, and then we'll go to some other questions from before. Un Semjo says, would you tell me a story that made you embarrassed? Oh, an embarrassing story. Well, I don't easily feel embarrassed because it's easy for me to laugh at myself. But there was a lot of situations when I was living abroad, because when you're in a new culture and a new language, you're gonna make mistakes and maybe you'll feel a little embarrassed. So one, maybe I've mentioned this before, one that I remember right away is when I was in Korea, the first 2 weeks, I only knew some basic words like, where is the bathroom? What time is it? I'm an English teacher. I'm from the US. Really basic expressions. I didn't know much yet. So I went to a local restaurant. If you're from Korea, it's called Kimbap Changguk, just very typical restaurant. And usually they give delivery food. But I didn't know that. So I went to the restaurant and I ordered food, And I tried to say that I wanted takeout. I was going to wait and I was going to take it with me. I didn't want them to deliver it because I didn't know how to say my address and I didn't know it was an option. So I went there, I ordered my food, and I tried to explain I am going to wait and I want takeout. Well, the woman who worked at the restaurant, she asked me a question that started with where. Where. So the word where in Korean is something like 어디예요? 어디요? And I knew this word because I knew the expression where are you from? A lot of people asked me right away in Korea, where are you from? So I memorized 미국 사람이에요. I'm from America. I'm from the US. I'm American. I memorized that. So when the lady at the restaurant asked me a question using the word where, I expected that she asked me, where are you from? So I said, 미국, which is America. I didn't really know about full sentences. So she asked me where something, and I said America. Do you know what she really asked me? She asked me, where do you want me to deliver your food? So I told her, please deliver it to America. What? So I didn't know until later that really she was asking me a different question, because on her face, she looked really confused. Like, no one has ever asked us to deliver food to America. What? She looked really confused. So later in that day, I asked my coworkers, what's wrong? Why was my answer incorrect? And they told me, oh, she was probably asking you, where do you want your food delivered? So even though at the moment I didn't know it was a mistake, later I felt embarrassed a little later because I realized, oh no, that lady probably had no idea that I misunderstood. She probably just thought I was crazy. So it's a little embarrassing, but not the end of the world. Let's go to a couple more questions from my document here. I'm going to share my screen again. Number 3 question is great. Let's use this great idiom here. Who lit a fire under you to be a professional English teacher? And there is a certain answer for this. When I was studying French in Paris, my French teacher was amazing. He was interactive and passionate and friendly, and he asked each student specific questions about their personal lives to use each grammar concept, and we were laughing the whole lesson. We loved going to that class. And so he is my inspiration. He's my inspiration. And I visited him again 2 years ago and brought him some pastries to say thank you because he helped me so much. Her next question is, how do you find speakers for your YouTube lessons? So I think here she's asking about, in my course, the Fearless Fluency Club, each month I interview someone else, another English speaker, and in the course, we analyze the vocabulary, talk about the grammar. So she asks, how do you find those speakers? How do you compensate them? Great question. Compensate means, do you pay them? Do you give them some food? Why are they doing it? So when I want to interview someone for my course, usually they are one of my friends and they know about my business, teaching English online. So if someone seems open to, some people feel really nervous about a microphone or a camera. They feel really nervous. So if I think they feel a little bit open to something new, I'll ask them, would you be interested in having a conversation for my course, just 30 minutes, casual conversation, no stress. I'll ask you some questions and we'll just talk. I try to make it really casual because I don't want them to feel stressed, and I want my course members to experience real conversation, not an organized interview, something really casual and normal. So I just ask a friend and some say yes, some say, that sounds a little scary with a camera, and they say, no, it's okay. But the people who say yes, if they are a close friend, sometimes I make dinner for them. This is my compensation. When they come to my house to have an interview and make this video, I will make dinner for them, or sometimes I pay them some money to say thank you so much, because it's so helpful for me and it's so helpful for you to have a real conversation. So people who are in the Fearless Fluency Club, that is how I find people to do interviews. And she also asks, how do you advertise your business? First of all, the internet is the only way. Through giving free material, really. YouTube, like this. I'm sharing myself, sharing my time. I want to create a good relationship. I want to show that you can trust me, because on the internet, you never know. So I want to make sure that the people who decide to join my courses, it's a big deal to give someone money. I think that when you don't know someone and you give them money because you want to get their product, you need to really trust them. So my goal is to share myself freely and build a good relationship. If you join my course, great. If you never join my course, you can enjoy lots of free material. No stress. Let's go back to see if there are any more live questions here. Oh, Jungsu Kim says, I can cook for you, please. I love Korean food. Please cook for me. We have, a great statement. Estella says, I liked your interview with Jack. Great. Thanks so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Jack is also an English teacher to fluency.com. Great teacher and nice guy. We have a quick question about grammar. Serini S says, how can I use may and can? May and can. So in the US, we use can in almost every situation. Can I eat dinner? Is it ready? Can I have a class with you? Some little children might ask, can I go to the bathroom? Can I see my friend next week? We use can for almost any situation. May, the word may, M-A-Y in the US is a little formal. So we don't use this in conversation. May I eat dinner now? Oh, it's too formal. We really don't use that in conversation. Maybe some traditional style older people will say, you have to use may if it's possible, and can if you think it's not possible. Like, may I go to the bathroom? Can I play basketball? I don't know. Can you play basketball? But don't worry about this situation, because in daily life, we use can. Stick with can. That's going to be great. Gabriella, I'm glad you're here. Gabriella, I'm about to answer some of your questions. So I hope it will be useful for you. Let's go back to our document and see if we can finish up. It's been about an hour. We got this. Thanks for joining me for so long. I appreciate it. All right. Let's just go straight to Gabriella's questions. I already mentioned how did we meet earlier in this lesson. Next question is, what did you take in college? And can you briefly explain how majors and minors work? I studied English, but not as an English teacher. I studied English literature, grammar, writing, these kind of bigger concepts. So it wasn't about how to specifically be a teacher, but because I love literature and words and creating meaning from words, this was a really good fit for me. And she asked, can you briefly explain how majors and minors work? So in the US, you can choose one major. Some people choose more than that, but most people choose one. So this is the main focus for your 4 years of study. And a minor is your secondary focus. For me, I didn't choose a minor. I only majored in English. That's it. I didn't have a minor. And for me, it was a great decision because I could study abroad. I didn't need to take extra classes for my minor because I didn't have a minor. I only had a major, English. She has some fun questions that we can finish up with here, and I want to ask you them as well. She asks, would you rather always take a cold shower or sleep an hour less than you need to be fully rested? So we have always take a cold shower or sleep an hour less than you need. What's your answer? I'm curious, those of you who are here live, what, or if you're watching the replay, let me know. Would you rather take a cold shower or sleep an hour less than you need? This is a really funny question, and maybe everyone has a different answer here. My answer is, I think a cold shower. I'm pretty sure that if I didn't sleep continuously for no reason, then I would maybe go crazy. I know soon, when the baby comes, I will not be sleeping so much. So there is a reason for not sleeping. It's understandable. But I think at the moment, I want to get as much sleep as possible. Before I was pregnant, 7 hours, 8 hours was okay, but now 8 hours is minimum. I feel like I need so much more sleep. My body is preparing and recovering. So 8, 9 hours now is excellent. But I know that soon it will be 3 hours, 4 hours. So I need to use up a lot of sleep right now. We have a quick live question. Miriam asks, can I ask how tall you are? How tall am I? I forget in centimeters. I think in feet, I am 5 feet 6 or 7 inches, probably 6.5. So I think in centimeters, that is 163. I think in the US, we don't use centimeters. I memorized these statistics when I lived abroad because when I lived in France and in Korea, they don't use feet and inches, they use centimeters and kilograms, but it's been 2 years. I think that's the correct answer. In the US, it's pretty average. I'm not considered short in the US, but I'm not really considered tall. Maybe a little bit more than maybe 160 is average for women in the US. So 163 is a little bit more, maybe not so much, but I'm not too tall in the US. Jungsu, I think 163. I'm not exactly sure. 5 feet 6 inches, whatever that is in centimeters. I think 163. Okay, I have one more question, one more crazy question from Gabriella. She asks here, so I'm going to share my screen so that you can see her question. It is this hypothetical question here. If the world was going to end and you knew it, what 3 things would you do? Wow. So I want to ask you, you're here, if you're here live, if you're watching the replay, if the world was going to end and you knew it, what 3 things would you do? What would you do if the world was going to end? Well, if I knew the world was going to end. I guess we need to decide, when is the world going to end? Is it going to end after 10 years? Is it going to end after 10 minutes? Let's say after 1 hour. After 1 hour, the world is going to end. Well, if the world is going to end after 1 hour, I think, first of all, I probably wouldn't believe it. It would be pretty unbelievable. If you have ever read the book or watched the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, this happens. The world ends, the world explodes, and the main character doesn't believe it. No one believes it. So I think I would be similar. I wouldn't believe it. Maybe after some time, if I believed it, I would try to find a way to stop it, because I feel when there's a problem, I want to take action and move and try to solve the problem. And the third thing, if the world was going to end and I couldn't stop it, then I would just talk with people I love and hug them, and that would be the end. I think that's probably what I would do or how I would feel, but you never know. Oh, we have a good answer. Some people, Dogan said 5 feet 6 inches is 172 centimeters. Thank you. 172 centimeters. Yes. And as for weight, it is growing every day because of the baby. So there's no accurate answer. Sami says, if the world were going to end, I would say, are you serious? How can I stop it? I agree. Quite crazy question, but fun. So thank you everyone for joining me live. If I didn't answer your question, or maybe you're watching the replay and you didn't have a chance to ask me a question, ask in the comments, and maybe another time we'll have a long Q&A like this. Over 1 hour live lesson Q&A. I hope it's useful for you. And if you would like to look at the PDF file, check out some of those links that I mentioned. It is in the description below this video. And of course, if you want to continue to learn English with me, keep it up. I'll see you again on Thursday in 2 days. You only need to wait 2 days. We'll have another live lesson, probably not for an hour. I'm gonna take another drink. But 20 or 30 minutes, 15, 20, 30 minutes. On Thursday, we'll have another live lesson, so please join me again here, Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to continue right now, you don't want to wait 2 days, you can read my free ebook. It was mentioned earlier that someone who asked a question said, I liked it a lot, thank you. So if you want to read this free ebook, the link is in the description below this video. 5 steps to becoming a confident English speaker. I want to help you become confident and to feel like you're following the right path. That's really important. There's a lot of ways you can go, but it's good to know that the path you're on is a good path. You're not wasting your time. Like I said, I don't want to waste my time. You don't want to waste your time. So make sure that you're following the right path. And thank you everyone who joined me live here. We have a great final statement. Don't forget to eat chocolate before the end of the world. Thank you for your long live chat. I had a blast. Great. So everyone, don't forget to eat chocolate before the end of the world. Eat chocolate now and enjoy it. Thanks so much, everyone. And I'll see you again in a couple days. I hope you can enjoy my free ebook and enjoy all these free materials. It's for you. Thanks so much, everyone. See you later. Bye.